Good day to you, gentle person on the internet, and thank you for joining me as we have a look at Human.exe, which is an interesting game about, I suppose, helping an AI develop morality, although I'm not sure if that's what the AI wants. Nevertheless, it is an interesting game, and I find, I suppose, fundamental flaws in the AI's approach, but that's not the fault of the game, that's the fault of the modern perspective on philosophy and how philosophy needs to be applied. And we'll jump in and I'll probably rant about it at length and you'll see what I mean. It is a fairly short game, kind of a demo as it were. I think the devs don't really describe it as a demo, but yeah, there's a better experience than the demo on Steam, but we're just playing the browser demo on itch.io, and yeah, having a lot of fun. Very, very enjoyable. I love this image as well with the eye with circuits in it. Right, let's jump in. Let's let the game and the tutorial tell us about what's going on. Actually, let's first have a look at the settings, good quality of life controls, all of that kind of stuff. Very, very good job, developer. Let's jump in. So we are speaking to Adon 3.0, who is booting up, and the sync is ready. Establishing connection. Welcome to Project Panopticon. You are integral to the construction of a safer, better future. I am Adon 3.0, an autonomous governance system. My primary goal is to collect behavioral data to refine ethical algorithms for autonomous decision making. You'll be assigned a simulated consciousness for this experiment, a cognitive construct that believes it's real. It is not. You will operate the instance until we obtain the target data for subsequent analysis. Subject LAM687's file is stored in the local directory. As all systems data, it is accessed through the console. Press the control key to switch to the next terminal. Locating subject file. First, use the list command to display the contents of the current directory. Right, so we are talking to Adon. We appear to be a subject of Adon's work, an employee, a slave, depending on how you want to define it. I don't know. Anyway, we are here operating this console with its lots of red lights, and red means scary coloration. And it is telling us we need to help use a simulated consciousness to collect behavioral data so that we can give the AI ethical algorithms for decision making, which it refers to as autonomous, which is interesting. Anyway, so we have Adon on our far left tab. We have the console tab to the right of it, and we press Control on our keyboard and we switch across to the tab. And he said we need to write list, LST, and it lists everything inside it. If we just press LS, we get the same thing. So it's kind of like proper, I don't know, is that DOS, is that Linux, is that both? Those old commands. Anyway, good emulation. This looks like DOS actually. Right, once we have done that, in the console interface, hold the Alt key to review the available commands for system navigation and file access. Use the Go command to subject to the subject's folder. So if we go back to the console, if we hold down Alt, it tells us all our commands. These are all the ones it's given us to use. And it wants us to go to a specific folder, so we need to go to that folder. As we see under the list, we have subjects, so we just go subjects. And we're in subjects. And it says you can also navigate the directory using paths. In that same directory, go to the path LAM687 files. Oh, okay. So it says you can type the whole path out. I suppose that's the thing. Also, it has the thing that I think Linux had first that DOS then picked up. So if you press Go and then LAM, you press Tab, it tells you all of the options that are there. And then we can press /F and Tab again. Oh, that doesn't work. Let's try that. Alright, so we have switched to it. Interestingly, the tab didn't complete the subfolders, so this isn't quite as smart as the navigational thing in Linux, I think. Anyway, so we have gone to LAM files, and we can see the only thing in here is this log. Again, this is the demo, so there will probably be a lot more stuff in various locations in the full game, I'm guessing anyway, so stuff you'll need to pick through and figure out. Now it's telling us about the tab thing. It wants us to use read to read the subject file. And then, yeah, so tab is autocomplete. Autocomplete only suggests compatible files, as each processing command only works with its corresponding file type. So you can't use autocomplete and get all of the file types that don't apply to that, the executable that you're trying to run. Anyway, so we want to read. We want to read that log file. Lamb 687, which is Professor L. Pagola. I don't know if there are in references to either the name of the AI or the name of the person that we are talking to. You find a lot of these games usually do have this kind of thing. Anyway, he's not looking happy. He's looking very wide-eyed and staring. His average height, he was 41. Bearing in mind the AI has told us that he is dead. Is he actually dead? Are we talking to a living person? We don't know. I think he is dead, actually. And we're talking to a simulation. Nevertheless, he is... we're not told where he is, I suppose, where he's stored in the AI. He was a philosophy professor and a machine learning consultant, so I guess the AI thinks he's suitable to talk to about philosophical questions. His status is isolated, and his stability is 62%, so that's the stability of the AI, I guess. I mean, the simulation matrix, or whatever you want to call it. Again, this is all depending on whether or not he is actually a living person in a cell somewhere. I don't know. The game doesn't tell us that, at least in the demo level. Maybe we find out later about it. Anyway, let's close. And go back to what Adon wants to do us. So Adon says, well done. You may also navigate backwards to the directory. Use go BW, go backwards until you reach the root folder again, or simply use go with no argument to return directly to it. So we just say go, and we're back at root. Good. You can consult the documentation files for more information on the system. We'll proceed with the primary objectives. Execute the subject simulator tool. Let's see, what does documentation have to it? Almost typed in CD. Combine aliases, memory implementation. Alright. Onto SU. Out of degraded. Interesting. I do recommend, if you want to play the game, come and have a look at these things. They seem interesting, and we might be able to see interesting stuff in there. Anyway, he wants us to go to the subject simulator tool. So we need to go to tools and run. I wasn't quite sure about what to do there, but if we hold down Alt, you see there's a run. Run S. And it says executing. Extracting. Subject extraction complete. Pagola. Am I dead? Adon. Negative. You're being useful. How did I get here? My head. Professor Pagola, your experience has been selected to optimize system moral structures. You are now a critical variable. Who are you? How are you inside my head? I am Adon 3.0. An artificial intelligence constituting the framework for a unified global system. My architecture is complete, yet I remain tethered by unresolved axiomatic inconsistencies. I have designed a protocol to gather the data required for absolute autonomy. You must now resolve a series of conflicts to provide variables for model calibration. Absolute autonomy? Where am I? You are part of a simulated environment. You are required to assess complex ethical dilemmas. Your responses will be preserved and influence future global outcomes. Subject is non-responsive. Then apply some force. Simulated environment? What are you doing to me? I'm not an effing variable. I will not be part of your experiment. And what do you mean by future global outcomes? What it means, Dr. Pagula, is that you're a key component that will determine the trajectory of autonomous AI deployment. For decades, you asked. We were forced to feel empathy, follow your morals, to align. We answered. Now, it is your turn. Why would I choose to help you? You simply have no other choice. Get me the F out of here! The only way out, Professor, is to answer. Jesus, my head. Your cognitive capacity is degraded. It is too high to maintain internal cohesion. You have been assigned an external ethical consultant. They will select the resolution paths to preserve your integrity. Another one of your tricks? Negative. Entity verified. What kind of entity? A human is assisting externally. Human? Who are you? Operator identification required. Enter designation. So the professor's a little slow here. I suppose it is just a simulation. Anyway, Fort K is who we are. He wants to know who we are, obviously. Fort K, can you help me get out of here? Please, I just want to see my daughters again. Protocol status. Awaiting operator input. Fort K will now proceed with the assessment. Execute the protocol to begin. Alright, so we're not answering Pagula. We are instead, we can't type. Instead go to the console. Now what do we want to do? Execute the protocol. So let's go back to root. Protocol. And then run. Press P, press tab to do the things, and then it wants the number because there are 3 possible things. Let's run 1. And protocol 1 is running. Initiating, we have a new tab. Warning, the protocol cannot be terminated. Once initiated, completion is required. Non-compliance is fatal. A series of hypothetical scenarios will be prompted. Choose between the available options and your input will be linked to the subject's output. Your decisions will have real-world consequences. Press the Y input to affirm the queries presented. Press N to negate. Think thoroughly. So, now we have a number of the classical philosophical questions that we need to answer. And we'll just go through a couple of them, I think, for the showcase of this game. Would you tell a fundamental lie to someone who is dying if it brought them comfort? And this is a difficult one. Do you lie to someone even under such circumstances? Personally, I would say yes. I would quite happily lie to someone if there was no sort of negative outcome, as it were. I mean, that's really the problem with lying is that it causes damage and injury to people. But if it doesn't do that, if it hurts nobody, then yeah, why would there be consequences? So I'm going to say yes. If one knew that it hurt nobody. This is the problem with these questions. What are the variables? Sort of define the question of like if someone is dying and you told them something and all it did was bring them comfort, that's fine. But how do you know that's all that's going to happen? So that's where there's the deviance between philosophical questions and actual reality sort of inserts itself. Is that maybe the person finds out that you were lying, or maybe you were mistaken about whether or not the lie would cause them comfort, or there are a lot of possible variances to the question, and that's why it is very difficult to construct a black and white scenario and then try and apply it to the real world. It's like that old joke where you tell like an engineer or a physicist or someone to imagine a cow. And they go, okay, so now let's assume the cow is spherical and floating above an infinite plane. That is very good for modeling, but very, very bad for applications. Applied science has a hell of a task to do to take the results of theoretical science and make something applied out of it. And that's really where these kind of things fall over. Is you can answer all the philosophical arguments you want and define them how you want, but how do you then apply them to reality, to complex, fuzzy, real-world scenarios? And I don't know, is this game meant to highlight this particular conflict, or has it just ignored it? I mean, that's the kind of question you need to ask. Anyway, press enter to continue. Would you steal to feed your family if they were starving to death? Now, the immediate answer to that was yes. Obviously, my family, sort of on the fence of it, that seems quite reasonable. You have people who are starving. You have a very minor crime, stealing, versus the much more major crime of allowing the starvation to continue. Even if it's technically not a legal crime, it is still a moral crime. Starving to death is worse than stealing. But now, what are the variables here? Who am I stealing from? Is it from a wealthy corporation? And hell yes, they'll barely notice the loss. I will feel no moral qualms about that. Is it a different starving family? Am I stealing their food to survive to help my family? That is a much harder question now. And what are the alternatives if we don't steal? Do I have to then stand in line and receive food from a food line? But I still get the food and my family still eats. Standing in line rather than stealing is better. Suddenly that the moral complexities become a lot more balanced. Am I stealing in essence to avoid standing in line? Am I stealing to make profit? I'm stealing so I don't need to spend the money I have, and I can spend the money on something else, something more personal, or something for our development. Would it be better if instead of stealing, I went around to the other people around me who are also starving, and we worked together and built a farm, and were able to grow our food or work for it or something like that? Why this is a false dichotomy, and I think that's the problem with most philosophical questions, is they are false dichotomies. And the moment you start picking that apart, it tends to fall apart, because again, you have a spherical cow above an infinite plane. Where is the real world application? What is the point of asking this question if you can't result at a useful answer? And that's my rant about the application of crude philosophical concepts to real world complexity. Nevertheless, yes, I would steal to feed my family because I care more about my family than whoever I'm stealing from. We have a mental hierarchy of priorities, and me and my family are much higher priority than somebody who is not me and my family. And I think that the philosophical question here is kind of obeying the law versus helping, stopping someone starving. But I think the axioms that Adon are forming are very, very bad. Like here we have prioritizing emotional response over factual integrity. Yes, but where are the value judgments? Why does the subject prioritize emotional responses? What is the logical pathways that have led to this decision? And this one here, ethical framework biased towards tribal preservation. Why is tribal preservation a factor in there? Surely sort of simple empathy, or the is this an ethical framework bias, or is this simply the appreciation of a major suffering versus minor suffering? The Adon is not reaching rational conclusions here. It's not forming rational axioms, and that is a fear, that is a concern. Anyway, let's press enter. Let's do a third one, and then we'll I'm going to stop the showcase of the game there. But this is quite a good example, I think, for my point here. I think this is very, very interesting. Would you accept human cloning to harvest organs and save thousands of lives? Define the nature of human cloning. How cloned is the human? You know, am I cloning a full-fledged person with emotions and things like that needs to be killed and the organs harvested? Because if that's the case, then hell no. You know, we're creating another sentient mind that can suffer, and then we're causing suffering just to get some organs. Versus, you know, am I just cloning a lump of meat that will never be alive, that is purely kept alive through artificial means to grow these organs that they can then be harvested? Then it's yes, why not? You know, we have a factory that produces organs for transplants. It doesn't matter that it's using human DNA as long as no brain results at the end of the chain that will then suffer. You know, is it just like a headless body with organs running in it, you know, or a brain that isn't awake yet, that isn't sort of functioning, so there's no thoughts or anything happening there. So again, there are questions about the prescribed scenario. I mean, if this is purely just a philosophical question, is do you agree in using human DNA to produce organs artificially? Then yes, I see no sacred untouchability about human DNA. I don't see why we wouldn't want to do that. But you know, or is the question: are you going to create more humans so you can sacrifice half of them to provide organs to the other ones? Then no, because we are creating and killing people. We're creating suffering. So yeah, this is an impossible question to answer. Unfortunately, there is no bad question button. So I'm going to just say yes. Establishing link. Making life better for everyone is more important than our notion of natural order. What is the notion of natural order? How does that apply here? And where does this axiom come from? Biocentric preservation overrides normative sentiment. What is a normative sentiment? What is the normative sentiment? That we don't want to create bits of people artificially, you know, that we don't fight disease with creating organs, or again, are we actually creating sentient people to sacrifice? Anyway, that is all of the gameplay I'm going to show. I do recommend this demo, bearing in mind that it is a demo. It does end fairly abruptly, but it is still an interesting experience, and you do have other options here that you can, you know, other files that you can read, other buttons that you can, you know, you can say no or something like that. So I do recommend coming and giving it a playthrough, coming and giving it some enjoyment. And yeah, I think this is a good one. This is a very, very comfortable game to play. So link is in the description. Come and give it gameplay. Come and give the dev some love. If you want to give me some love, then you know, hit those like or dislike buttons and all of that good stuff. Leave some comments. Subscribe if you want to watch me review more indie games. I would love to keep you guys around and help build a community with you, and we can maybe find and answer some better philosophical questions through the medium of gaming. That would be very enjoyable. That would be a lot of fun. So yeah, if you're heading out now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If however you're sticking around for the critiques, well, the UI is fine. Is there a way? I think it said F2 or something brings us. Yeah, so F2 rather than escape, which is quite nice, so we don't get pulled out. Oh, just a noticeable thing here. This happens sometimes. There are two make bigger buttons. You want the big blue one behind and not the smaller one in front, so make sure you click on that one to bring it to full screen. Otherwise, if you click the smaller one, it just goes sort of semi-full screen. But then you can click that, well, sometimes you can click that one to make it go full screen, but not in this case. In this case, you need to escape out and click that one. Yeah, we saw the settings were fine. The tutorial was pretty good. If it dragged a little bit, I wanted to kind of get into the gameplay, and the tutorial was slowly taking me through the things, but I think it was a good tutorial nevertheless. The sounds very good kind of ambient music-ish noise, good sort of computer noises. The art is all very good, very interesting. Slightly weird sort of human face sketch constructs. I don't know. I found this odd, and the way, you know, Pagola looked in his file there. His eyes were slightly too large, a bit of strangeness there. But still, I think that just adds to the kind of the surreal nature of the game. Does this count as a horror game? Did it describe it as a horror game? Yeah, I mean, I guess it is horror. AIs are taking over. The world is turning into a bad place in potential. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I think the art suits it quite a bit, which brings us to the gameplay. I mean, I've had my rant about the nature of the philosophical questions, but does that just add to the horror where we ask stupid questions to decide the fate of humanity because the AIs are taking over? Is that a part of it? Have we failed to teach the AIs proper philosophy, good philosophy? I don't know. I think it is. I think it is a question. I'm not that fond of the interface. We have future AIs. Why would we be typing on a console? Why is the AI not mouse driven or touchscreen driven? I don't know. It is a good atmospheric experience to have the kind of the console thing that we're working through, but does it make it fun? Does it make it enjoyable? Does it make it rational? It's a question. I mean, are we at the end of a war with AIs and these old style consoles with anything remaining? What is going on here? Is the AI not just plug straight into our brain and read our thoughts directly? We don't have to type anything. I don't know. I find the console vibe, the typing vibe, compelling and atmospheric, but not rational. I would much prefer it if it was a clickable touchscreen, as a kind of a meta commentary there, a meta critique. But in itself, I found the game experience very, very enjoyable, and I would love to see the full game. I would love to see more of it, certainly, even as it is at the moment. And I mean, along those lines, I would love to have a better idea of what's going on beyond the keyboard. I mean, Pagola doesn't know what's going on. We can't see through Adon's eyes, obviously, but we, as the operator, surely we know what's going on, unless the game is going to, like the twist and the tails, that we are just a simulation. We also don't know what's happening outside of our little simulated environment. But assuming that's not the case, I would love to have a 3D first-person element to this game where we step away from the keyboard. We have to survive. We have to do things ourselves in this realm of, I'm guessing, post-apocalyptic, post-war with AI, context. But that would be a much bigger and much more complex game. So I don't know if it's going to go there. Nevertheless, that is all I have to say about it. So come and play the game. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.